I'm Sam from Cultaholic, and this is Graded for AEW Dynamite, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. Now, I don't usually grade AEW. Jack is just off this week, so I've been thrown into a bit of a maelstrom with this week's episode. Jesus Christ, there is a lot going on. So without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. So we kick things off this week with everybody already in the ring. The massive 12-man tag match which pits the Elite and FTR against the Dark Order and Colt Cabana. So Brody Lee starts off strong in this one before he gets dropped by Matt, but then very quickly after that, the Bucks are put firmly in place. Number 9 is then tagged in by Lee. He gets in and is of course brutally murdered by the Faces. Eventually, of course, Dark Order then storm the ring to even things out. There's a really cool moment where I think it's Lee and Uno, or it might be Grayson and Uno, go for like a double vertical suplex. FTR get in there and save Paige and Kenny at the last minute, though, just catching them and placing them gently back on their feet. I thought that was really cool. FTR then get in and absolutely clean up, and it ends sort of with Uno and Grayson being mauled by the Faces. There's even a beautiful dive here to one of them from Nick to the outside. He just flips straight over, sort of like a swanton, lands beautifully on his feet after wiping everybody out. How envious I am of such agile people. But then disaster strikes. Harwood goes down pretty hard, like clutching his knee. He's like edging his way out of the ring, trying to take his knee brace off. Everybody's really concerned. So, of course, Wheeler takes him to the back. Nearly said Wilder. Takes him to the back. And Adam Page, for some reason, comes along with him, and the Doctor just leaves ringside, and commentary's like, what the hell's he doing? Where's he going? There's still a match going on. He's got his friend there. He's got a Doctor. Leave him to it. But Page cracks on anyway. And then things really break down here when Dark Order just take it straight to Matt. He, of course, fights back. He's not just going to sit there and take it, but it does bite him in the arse. So he's fighting his way up out of it. I think he knocks Uno to the outside, starts taking it to Grayson, and then he's about to get the hot tag to his brother, and Uno just pulls him off the apron. And then very quickly after that, there's this cool like monkey flip suplex type thing. Like Uno just grabs him and just hurls, and then Grayson just catches it into this like horrible snap looking suplex. That was some fantastic tag team work. But really, by this point of the match, everybody's knackered. Of course, the Faces are already a few men down. Everything's falling apart. Matt has to just start bringing the fight, and just as things look their darkest, out comes Adam Page. He's returned to save the day. So Page cleans up, and it comes down to Page and Lee. Lee even hits a dive, and it pays off, and then Colt hits that horrible Chicago skyline thing where just boom, just straight drop onto the ropes. That always looks absolutely brutal. Dark Order, of course, try to capitalize here and build on their momentum, but they're cut off by a super kick party, and then Kenny Omega is in the ring as well. I think the Bucks are in the ring. Page comes flying over the top. I think Uno ducks it, and he nearly wipes out Omega with a buckshot. That was just such a nice little tease. But it's not long after this that Brody Lee nails that horrible lariat of his and picks up the win. Now, just before I start talking about this, I appreciated this match. I did. It had some good story moments, swells. It had some good drama. It had excitement. But I don't know. For me, it was just a little bit too much in places, and I'm going to give it a B-. It felt like it was full of false finishes and comebacks, and while those things are standard staples of wrestling, when you see them just sort of over and over again with so many men in the ring, it's going to happen. It was just kind of jarring. It was like watching stuff on a feedback loop. As I said, I get that it's a 12-man, and by its nature, it's very insane, but it just does kind of take me personally out of it. And on top of that, it just felt like we had a little bit too much time spent here on the opening match. We'll get to this later when I talk about another match, but it feels like this might have gone long. I don't know. I'm not the person who booked it, but it was just an odd start. It was an odd start. Good, but odd. Next up, real quick here from earlier in the day. I'm not going to show a picture because it was so quick. The best friends arrive in Sue's minivan. Think we all know where this is going to go. And we go to another earlier today, and it's Jon Moxley sat in a stairwell. And he says, you know what? I've become somebody who's concerned for somebody else's health. Moxley talks about the parallels between him and Darby Allin. They're very, very similar people, and Darby is on a very similar path to a young Jon Moxley. He says that their match is weighing on him and that he doesn't want to be the guy to end his career, because when it comes down to it, he has to win that match, and he'll do anything it takes, and he knows that you're going to do anything it takes, Darby, so this is going to be a pretty pretty hard fought match. Next up, we go to another tag match. It's Santana and Ortiz against Best Friends. So there's a little bit of switch tagging here to start things off, a little bit of back and forth, and then Chuck gets in, and this is where it really starts going. So Ortiz tries to isolate him, Best Friends fight it off, they sort of take the fight right to Santana and Ortiz, and they stand tall going into the break. And they continue that dominance over Santana until he's able to escape to Ortiz, and he sort of takes it to Trent a little bit and just hands him straight over. So Ortiz works him into the mat, there's some strikes, there's some back and forth, and then Trent is just whipped horribly around the ring. He's even sent to the outside and hurled into a barricade as well. And then Trent finally gets the tag to Chuck. Chuck comes in, he hits Soul Food, he hits a Falcon Arrow, but it's just not enough. Very quickly though, they dispose of Santana and they get Ortiz up into like a shoulder-mounted double-decker suplex thing out of the corner. And then eventually, as quickly and bluntly as it started, Ortiz looks to have it won before Trent just rolls him through and picks up the win. Now, I'm going to give this one a B. It felt odd to go back-to-back on intense tag matches. Obviously, the first one was intense due to scale. This one was intense due to just the back-and-forth relationship between these two teams, but it was fantastic. I think I preferred this one in terms of pace and mentality to the opener, just because that opener was a little bit haphazard. However, Santana and Ortiz are on a bit of a slope. I don't think they've won anything since February, so we need to sort of rectify that soon, please, because they're such a good team. And now it's time for an update from the officers of MJF's campaign. He walks straight in, a member of staff hands him a piece of gum, he puts it in his mouth, spits it out and immediately fires him because the gum's terrible. He goes to another member of staff and complains that he's hung a poster, a campaign poster of MJF, slightly wonkily, and then he just runs down the other member of staff that's in there. Just generally acts like a bit of a knob, which is surprising because, you know, MJF's usually such a nice boy. MJF? And what am I saying? MJF. MJF is usually such a nice boy. There's some nice funny interactions, but the only thing that really matters that I'll say here is that he says his campaign will not end until that gold is around his waist. And now we go to Matt Hardy, who has sort of like an in-ring announcement type thing going on. He's down the ring, he's got his red hair, he's just chilled, just looks like normal Matt Hardy. He says that he came to AEW in order to have some say in his career and have control over that aspect of his life. He says he's been having a lot of fun with the Matt multiverse, bringing back all the characters and everything, but right now he feels like he just has to be Matthew Hardy on TV. Now backstage he's still going to be helping out as many people as he can, but on TV he's going to be Matthew Hardy. On the point of backstage though, he singles out a couple of teams, people that he's been talking to, people he'd love to help, people he has like ideas for, and then he brings up Sammy Guevara. So he talks about how Sammy sort of disrespected him by refusing his help and just acted like a bit of a knob, I guess, but it's too late anyway because Matt's still just talking and Sammy Guevara has snuck out from under the ring. They have a little bit of a brawl. Matt sets up a table, Sammy's thrown into the crowd, there's some back and forth, and then eventually Matt is laid out on the table that he set up and Sammy puts him through it. But something worth noting, before he lays him out flat on the table, he hurls this chair, this fully opened plastic, audience standard chair. If you've ever been to a wrestling show, you'll know what I mean. Just a standard fold out plastic chair, launches it, and one of the legs, I think, just goes because Matt Hardy's head is like a tap. It's like somebody just went and seriously, it's everywhere. It's properly bad. I hope he didn't lose too much blood. I hope he's okay. But yeah, Sammy puts him through the table and standard heel standing tall. Now, I'm going to give this an A because the use of blood here, whether intentional or not, was really impactful. That was serious because it was all like, yeah, okay, this is a pretty good promo. This is a pretty good promo. Whoa, what is that? And you know that they're going to spin this into something great. If this was accidental or not, it's going to be spun into something fantastic. Right, and now we go back to the car park, and there is Sue's minivan. Who could have predicted we were going to see this again tonight? Santana and Ortiz arrive, and just start putting the windows in. Just start beating the crap out of it. They've got a sledgehammer, they're spraying graffiti on it and everything. They just trash the car. And next up, finally, we have John Silver and Alex Reynolds of the Dark Order up against Cody and Matt Cardona in his debut AEW match. Oh, it's so good to see him, and it's so good to see him look so happy. So Cody starts off with Silver, just gets him up and holds him in a delayed vertical suplex for as long as he physically can before planting him. And then Cardona gets in, and you can just see the energy beaming off him. He's like a new man. The way he's moving around that ring, Oh, it just brought a tear to my eye. Reynolds then tags in and then Cody gets in. There's some back and forth there before Cody is hurled to the floor. So Cardona has to just stand there and watch as they take it to Cody in the middle of the ring, and they're beating him down and turning him into mush. He's in some serious trouble here. He eventually gets the tag, comes in and cleans house though, and it's fantastic. Cody tries to intervene when things get a little bit hairy, but he's dumped to the outside, and then there's just this phase of unbelievable double teamwork on Cardona here. It's like 25 straight seconds of just fast reversal, insanity, back and forth, just tied together. It all made sense in this weird, beautiful way. I'd strongly suggest you just see if anybody's got a gift for that out there, because it's unbelievable. But of course, it's not long after this that Cardona is able to hit radio silence and pick up the win. His first victory in his first match in AEW. But it doesn't quite end there, because on the way out, Cody's got his title, he's halfway up the ramp, he's getting up to the little entrance tunnel, and out comes Scorpio Sky. He looks at Cody, he looks at the belt, he looks back at Cody, he may even touch the belt, I can't remember, and then he walks away. Oh, this is going to be so good. I'm going to give this one a B. It was a perfectly nice debut here for Cardona and a nice inconsequential win. It doesn't really matter who he's beating as long as he wins, looks strong, and looks happy on his debut. But I think the real travesty here is that Silver and Reynolds are kept under masks in the Dark Order as these like faceless minions. After that double teamwork, I just get them out of those masks. Get them back in the tag league, replace them with somebody else, because they were great. They got a new fan in me. So we go backstage to, surprise, surprise, best friends stood in front of Sue's trashed minivan. And they're like, you know what, you can mess with us, mess with our possessions, do whatever you want, but my mom's car, I mean, come on. It's just ridiculous. So if you wanted a rematch that badly, if you were that upset about it, just come and see us. But now we're going to have that rematch. And when we beat you, you're going to call my mom and you're going to apologize on loudspeaker. Next up, we have the debate segment between Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho and the mystery moderator, who is Eric Bischoff. This is a nice little get, isn't it? It's been like 22 years, I think they said, since Bischoff has been on TNT, and it's just a nice little, you know, like a nice little at the competition there, innit? So I'm going to have to just sort of read this one because there's a lot, because it's questions and answers and all sorts of stuff. So excuse me if you get annoyed by me reading this, just look at the lovely little screen. It's a lovely little screen. It's got pictures on it. So, right. The first question is, why do you guys hate each other so much? So Jericho immediately jumps in, he runs down Cassidy, he's like, look at how he's dressed. Cassidy then puts on a stick-on black tie, which was really funny, and Jericho's like, see, it's that. It's stuff like that. That's why I hate you. That's why everybody hates you. Everybody's laughing at you behind your back. You think they're all like on your side, they're not, they hate you. Cassidy's response to this is, of course, nothing, because he doesn't talk. The next question is then, who is the bigger wrestler and the better star? And Jericho again jumps in with a self-indulgent answer. Cassidy stands there, says nothing. And then next is a question about global sea levels rising, and Jericho just runs it down. He's like, what kind of a ridiculous, stupid question is this? It's got nothing to do with what's going on. Who picked that? I know they picked at random, but come on, that's ridiculous. And then Cassidy, cool as a cucumber, for the very first time, opens his mouth and gives a constructive and balanced answer on the rising global sea levels. Jericho is shocked, can't believe that he's one, spoken, two, is that knowledgeable about the subject, but he just sort of stands there, calmly delivers the answer, and Jericho can't believe it. The next question is, why is Orange Cassidy so popular? Jericho thinks it's because he's the same as every Smart Mark fan, and he says that he is going to beat him up and he's going to make him pay for the jacket. And again, because it's such a horrible question, Cassidy has no response. And then we have the final question. Why does this rematch matter so much to the pair of you? And Jericho starts to speak and give a rambled answer, but he's cut off by Orange Cassidy. And I'm not talking like, you know, I'm just going to start talking over Jericho all like quiet like this. He straight up tells him to shut up. He says, look, I know you're just trying to embarrass me, right? Get the guy who doesn't speak on a debate platform. I know what your game is, but at the end of the day, it's not me who's embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed by this. You've gone to all this effort. You look like an idiot. But you will be embarrassed when it comes to this match. When I beat you, it'll be the most embarrassing loss of your career. Cassidy is declared the winner of the debate by Bischoff. Jericho kicks off, he can't believe it. Hager then jumps Cassidy, hurls him like Irish whips him into a Judas effect, and they stand tall. Best friends then come running out, and Jericho and Hager escape. I'm going to give this one an A. How can you not? It was such a nice little promo. Jericho is the master of running his mouth as per. And Orange Cassidy broke his silence. This just opens up so many doors now. After the break, we come back. We're at ringside with Britt Baker and Reba and Tony Schiavone. And he's like, okay, so if Swole beats your chosen competitor, she'll come on to face you. Who have you got in line for her? Because the match is now. And Britt Baker's sort of like, Reba. And Reba's like, what? But then she just sort of has to do it. She gets in the ring. She's been announced as the competitor. Get in the ring. And then out comes Swole to murder her. There's not really a lot more to say than that. Reba gets a moonsault attempt in. She does get some offense in. It's not just a straight squash. She defends herself, which at least was really cool. But yeah. Now, I'm going to give this a C simply because it's squash. Anybody that knows how I grade squashes, it's just right down the middle because it's so short. There's not really a lot to go off. And usually it's more of an angle than a match. But for this to go like 3 minutes, I think it was, 3 and a bit minutes, and that opening was so long and self-indulgent, I find that to be a little bit weird. But now it's time for our main event of the evening, which pits current AEW World Champion Jon Moxley against challenger Darby Allin for the title. So Allin enters with this cut-out Moxley mask with an eye removed. Moxley gets down to the ring and just slaps it off of his face. And then we start with Moxley using a size advantage to just hurl Allin around the ring. Allin, though, being quite wily, he realizes he's got to step it up with the speed because Moxley's got the size and the strength. He's just got to sort of keep that distance, and he's able to start taking it to Moxley. So we have a bit more of a level playing field as things spill onto the ramp, but then Moxley just grabs Allin and throws him, just launches him off the stage into the ring post. Just plink. And down he goes. Rather than leave him there for the easy count out, Moxley scoops him back up and puts him straight in the ring and sets to work. So he just keeps grinding Allin down. This becomes a theme here, is he's grinding him down. Allin will eventually hulk up somehow, throw a few strikes, try and get that distance in there with the speed, but Moxley will be straight back on him, pin him down, and just start laying in the strikes. But it's not long after this that he finds his feet. He barrels Moxley to the floor and absolutely explodes on him. Allin then nails him with a swanton from the top to the floor. A little bit after that, Moxley cuts him off on the ropes, and then there's a bit of a double down. So during the double down, the referee's counting, and out comes Wardlow. Referee is obviously distracted with him, telling him to bugger off and just, get to the back, Wardlow. This ain't your match. Go on. But this is, of course, just a distraction for MJF to slip in through the crowd, grab the title, nail Moxley with it, wipe him out, and hopefully have Allin pin him to win the belt, because then that leads to an easier match for MJF moving forward. So Allin, seeing what's happened, seeing Moxley down, goes for the coffin drop, but it's not enough. Moxley is pouring with blood from the belt shot. Allin sees it again. He's like, right, come on. Goes for the coffin drop. But this time, as he jumps back, he's caught straight into a sleeper by Moxley, and Moxley pretty much almost chokes him out. Allin goes completely limp and lifeless a couple of times. It looked really cool. Moxley then transitions out of this into a gotch-style pile driver. Allin kicks out of that, so he goes for his finish and picks up the win. So I'm going to give this one a B. I thought it told a great little story, but it was a little bit obvious that it just wasn't going to be Allin's time. That being said, though, the match itself was really entertaining. The hunger from Allin here, the way that he repeatedly brought the fight, I think that was great. It shows that he as a character has a long way to go, but he is driven. He will achieve what he wants one day. It's just not going to be today. There were also times that Moxley looked like he was banged to rights getting beaten, so it was nice to see some of those little fake out moments. MJF interfering, as I said, is a no-brainer because it's much easier for him to beat Allin, or at least he thinks that because he's a smaller guy, than it is for him to beat Moxley. But I'm quite excited to see where this is going to go moving forward now that he's going to have to face Moxley. But yeah, a strong main event to close out the show, and this week I'm going to give AEW Dynamite a B-. So a strong opener to close out the show, but overall I'm going to give this week's episode of Dynamite a B-. I think mainly my issues with this episode my small amount of issues stemmed from that opener. It was just so haphazard, so crazy, so energetic, and so just full of everything that it was always going to be a steep act to follow, and carrying that momentum on is always going to be hard for everybody that's coming next. So it started real high and just sort of went whoa, and it was a bit of a drop and a bit of a bounce, but overall overall, pretty good episode. 3 tags back to back will never not feel weird, but I think it's just sort of a staple of the show at this point. And as I said, I was quite annoyed at the fact that Reba and Swole, it was just like, boom, done, quick, get it over with, like that's it. It just felt like we were kind of running out of time. But as I said, I think the things I'm looking forward to most now are Moxley and MJF, especially after that title shot, because he made him bleed his own blood, and Orange Cassidy spoke. What does this open up? If he starts delivering just because that final bit where he unloaded on him was great. It was just great. I'm really excited. But that has been graded for AEW Dynamite. I hope I haven't kept you too long. I'm Sam from Cultaholic. Let me know what you thought about this week's Dynamite in the comments below. And as always, stay safe. I'll see you soon.